Hey, well, World Entertainment, and it's here. God help us all. Season 2 of The Rings of Power. Not 1, not 2, but the first 3 episodes are now available. Do yourself a favor, don't bother. These things are horrendous. Believe it or not, even the look at the visuals has gone down compared to the first season. And things just happen for a reason. Time has no meaning in this season. People just get from point A to B in a nanosecond. It's ridiculous. But I'll start off with telling you this, okay? The very first episode opens with a recap of the first season. That entire recap in an episode that's an hour and 16 minutes, I believe it is. Now, obviously you can take out end credits and that. You can also take out the recap, so it shortens it quite a bit. The recap alone is 3.5 minutes long. I kid you not, 3.5 minutes long. The second episode, the recap is 2 minutes and 9 seconds long. And the third episode does the recap of, by the way, it's all recaps of the first season, not of what you just watched, of the first season. The third episode does the recap and then goes immediately into the credit sequence. That takes 3 minutes and 33 seconds. So you're wasting almost 4 minutes watching recaps of the first season. That right there tells you that nobody stuck around to watch it. That's why they're throwing this crap in. As for how the first season, our first episode, starts, well, it's a giant flashback to not just Sauron, but to a very different version of Sauron, when he was basically rising up to take his power over everything, and he's trying to convince the orcs to join him, to bow down to him, with Adar beside him, and they're bringing out the crown and whatnot, and he gets betrayed. Adar stabs him in the back with the crown, and then he gets knifed to death by the orcs. That's right, you heard that correctly. Sauron was killed by the orcs. Yeah, the most powerful evil in Middle-earth just got stabbed a bunch of times by a bunch of orcs. Yeah, and it's so stupid. It's like the blood, it's very, very bloody, but the blood is black and stuff. But the blood does this thing that just instantly, when I saw it, I was like, wow, it's just like the oil in the X-Files. Helps that I'm actually currently rewatching the X-Files. And by Jesus, do I need that now for a palate cleanser after this crap. But it literally drips down through a cave. By the way, he's lying dead on the ground. And Adar kind of starts kicking his arm to see if he's still alive. And then he just wakes up with this big blue beam coming out. And that's where you get that explosion in the trailer of the tower. Which is the tower that Galadriel in the first season killed that snow troll in under 10 seconds. That's where they are. His oily blood drips down into a cave and becomes this worm man type thing. But here's the thing. This version of Sauron that we meet is a total pussy. I mean, truly like, he's kind of nervous. He's constantly playing with his hands. You know, he's looking at Adar to try and see, like, you know, are the orcs on my side and stuff, you know. He almost is trembling with what he's saying. And an orc tries to stab him in the back, and he instantly turns around and kills that one, and then he gets betrayed and whatever. But he becomes like this oily thing. That thing you saw in the trailer, the worm black oil thing, that's Sauron. And the camera zooms out from the cave, goes black, but then instantly comes back to the cave and zooms back in. Which, by the way, when they do that, I'll show you it as well. I'll show you bits and pieces, little clips here and there. All of a sudden, there's extra rocks that seem to have grown out of the ground. It's like, that's not how rocks work, you morons. But it attacks like a rat, which gives it strength. Then it attacks a centipede. Then it's crawling out of the mountain and it's crawling around. And then it gets run over by a woman and a horse and cart that it sticks to, it absorbs her, and we get Halbrand. And then he goes, meets these other people who are saying there's nothing but death in that direction. You should come with us. And we get the story of how he ended up on the boat, which instantly then got destroyed. And then it ends with him meeting Gladriel, and they go off. That's where we get the whole random meeting people in the middle of the ocean. I'm not going to go over. I just wanted to get that out of the way because that's how it all starts. We're not going to go over everything in all 3 episodes because, quite frankly, watching it, I start zoning out. And quite frankly, I actually have a video of me watching this, and this is probably me in about 15 minutes into the episode. Yeah, unfortunately I came back and watched the rest of them. I shouldn't have. The writing and everything this season is like horrendous. Now we know every episode this season is directed by women. There's 3 women. Ironically, now I can't remember about episode 1 because, to be honest, I wasn't really paying attention. But in episode 2 and 3, not just were they directed by a woman, they were directed by 2 women. That's right, they're that incompetent they needed 2 of them to direct episodes 2 and 3. It's ridiculous. And all we basically have with the first 3 episodes is we're just re-meeting people. That's literally it. So the first episode is kind of getting re-established with Gladriel and Doogie Elrond and stuff. They're all we really kind of are meeting back up with. Oh, I'm pretty sure it's the first episode, not the second. They all kind of meld into one. We go back to the stranger, you know, Gandalf, but not Gandalf, but totally Gandalf, with Nori, who are traipsing to the desert in a circle for some reason. Episode 2, we're really brought back with them two. Yeah, actually, maybe it's only that episode with I can't remember. We're met back up with Disa and Durin. I believe. Who else were we? This is the episode where we're met back up with Celebrimbor and stuff. And episode 3, we're back with the Numenorians and Isildur and stuff. And like, they're just, Jesus Christ, it's terrible. So like, they went so dumb this season, especially with things that are even said in it. Like, we all remember the whole, why does a rock sink and a boat float? This season we're getting just as equally dumb, stupid dialogue, such as they're trying to come up with a name for Gandalf but not Gandalf, and he's like, you can't be given a name must be something you have, blah blah blah. And you're just like, what do you mean you can't be given a name? What do you think happens when you're born? Now I'm just gonna mix through all 3 episodes. I'm not gonna go in any specific order or anything. We're just gonna go through each story. Bronwyn is dead. They killed her off. Now we know the actress left because she went back to her home country to do activism. Yay. So they killed her off, and the explanation for how she died is fucking hilarious. If you remember, she got, well, you probably don't, and to be honest, I didn't until they said it. She got shot with the orc arrow in season 1. Well, it turns out, it just takes its time to kill you. Yeah. So, that's all. It just, she walked it off until they didn't. Because they seem to have feared the whole idea of just recasting this character. They did with Adar. I don't know why they didn't with her, but whatever. They really did just go full retard. They really did.
You went full retard, man. Never go full retard.
Thanks, RGJ. You tell them, because that's exactly what they did. There's a great thing in the 3rd episode that just is so ridiculous. We actually have to spend about 5, maybe 6 minutes, maybe even a bit longer, with a horse. And no, I'm not messing about this. Isildur's horse. Yeah. They're trying to, like, his father is trying to convince this horse, like, no, we gotta go home. Like, we'll find him at some stage. And the horse just won't listen, so they let it go, and it goes traipsing off. And it just runs and runs through the fields, and then it runs into, I think they called it the Black Forest. And it runs into a bunch of orcs who try to capture it. And here's where it gets hilarious, right? So they try and capture it. The horse wears up kills one of the orcs by kicking him, and he goes flying and sticks into a big spike coming out of a tree, then takes off while he's lassoed by the orcs, runs off with one of the other orcs holding onto it and plows him into a tree, and then the other orcs are like, hey, we should go after it, and the other orcs like, let it go, nothing ever comes out of the Black Forest alive. But after he finds the seal door and stuff, yes, the horse finds the seal door in a cave filled with spiders. They go out, meet some new woman, who's another made-up character, who instantly stabs Isildur in the leg and just pulls the knife out, and you're just like, that would be one of those wounds in one of those areas that he'd be dead, but whatever. These human raiders who are all bowing down to Adar come up and kidnap the horse, and the horse doesn't put up a fight this time. I'm like, the horse just took on orcs, and now it's just like, oh no, I'm being kidnapped. Oh well. You're like, what just happened? It's so ridiculous. Nori and Gandalf are wandering through the desert, as I said. They know they're being followed. They start realizing they're being followed. Helps at night when they're sitting around a campfire and look over and see another fucking campfire. And then they're like, we need to set a trap type thing. And their trap is literally a string tied to a rock, but like not a tiny string that you can't see it. Like, it's a big thick string, and it's like, how is someone not going to see that? Well, that someone doesn't see it. And who is it? Who's been following them? Who do you think it is? It's Nori's best buddy in the world, Poppy. Yeah, that's right. Poppy followed them. And here's the thing. The first question Nori asks Poppy is, how's everyone at home? And she's like, oh, you know yourself. It's same old, same old. And I'm thinking, hang on. If you didn't leave right away to follow them, how would you ever have known where they went and what direction they went? And how long have they been out there that you were able to find a new home with the other Harfoots, then go wandering off to find these, find them, catch up to them, and then be able to say, oh, you know, it's because they're all fine and stuff. Not just that, but she was following them, clearly watching them from a distance, and all you can think is, why aren't you just running up to them and saying, hey, look, it's me, it's Poppy. Why are you sneaking up on them? No, she is not the ones that you see in, like, the Tusken Raider masks. They are part of the Asgirls. Remember them from the first season? You'll never guess what they're called in this. Their leader, whatever the hell he's called, don't know, don't care. He summons, he brings one in. They cut her hand, all these butterfly things fly around her, and then it brings the Slim Shady one back. And then he questions her, like, how did you fail? Blah, blah, blah. I can't remember who it is who comes to him. I think it's Adar to say, like, oh, Sauron's back and whatnot. Oh, yeah. Wait till I get back to the first episode with Sauron. But he turns around and goes, what makes you think you can beat Sauron? Or take down the wizard or whatever it is, when my best acolytes couldn't do it? That's right. They called them acolytes. And this just happens to come out right after we just had that disaster. The acolyte. Couldn't believe it. Sauron, how could I forget about this? Do you know what Sauron's plan is? Well, I should say Hellbrand. You remember how we all left him off in the first season, with him standing in Mordor, staring at Mount Doom. That's what his plan is from then. His plan, wrap your heads around this fantastic writing. His plan is to surrender to Adar, to be taken captive, to convince Adar to release him so he could go to the elves. Yeah, work that one out. When these people were writing this stuff, I can only picture the writers. It must have been something like where they told you this big story and they thought everything went so serious with it, and it probably ended up something like this.
Did you just soil yourself?
Maybe. It did sound a little wet, didn't it? Right at the end. Ooh.
Yeah, it was literally just a big fart, because you're like, hang on, this dude's plan is to surrender, to convince them to release him. What? Why? It's so stupid. And oh, by the way, apparently the writer of the first episode has clarified that from the time the first version of Sauron is stabbed to death and dribbles down and becomes Worm Man thingy bob to becoming Hellbrand and getting on the ship, what we see in the episode that takes about 25 seconds apparently took 1,000 years. Yeah, didn't seem like it took 1,000 years. It seemed like it all happened one after the other, after the other, after the other. The rings. Elrond doesn't want anything to do with the rings. He thinks they should be destroyed. Gladriel is trying to convince Gil-galad and stuff, no, we actually need to use them. Elrond is just like, but Sauron made them. By the way, she has now told Gil-galad that it was Sauron. That Hellbrand was Sauron, which causes problems later on with the writing. By the way, if you're wondering how come I'm not saying anything about Durin and stuff like that, it's because literally nothing fucking happens with them. It is pointless. So is Don Legomas, whatever the hell he was called. Yeah, he's pointless as well at this stage, as is Theo. But he's run off. Elrond has run off with the rings, and Gladriel is trying to chase him on the horse, trying to get it. Just when they go up to Gil-galad. Gil-galad demands that Elrond gives him the rings, which he refuses to do, and pretty much goes deuces and jumps off a fucking cliff. Yeah, I'm not kidding. And vanishes. He buggers off, and they're like, maybe we should go after him. So they're trying to go after him, find him. They realise, well, Gladriel realises, oh, he's going to go to the only person he can trust, his good buddy. And he does, and he goes to this buddy who builds ships, and he wants the buddy to destroy them, and his friend is trying to convince him, like, maybe, you shouldn't destroy them, because maybe, just maybe, it could kill all the elves. And this is also where the thing gets so stupid. It's like, it could kill all the elves, it could be the end of the elves. Are you really willing to take that risk, like, on the chance of destroying the rings? And he's like, yep. It's like, oh, alright. Yeah, screw everybody else, I suppose. It's just like, yep, I'm absolutely willing to let every elf die to make sure that these rings don't fall into the hands of Sauron. It's like, but if you want to get rid of the whole rings so Sauron can't kill the elves, but in doing so you could kill the elves, you're not seeing the issue here. This dude, Sindan, or Círdan, I think he's called. Yeah, Círdan. Gladriel shows up and is like, Elrond, Doogie, where the hell's the rings? And they see Círdan sailing out on a boat. And you realise at that very moment, the showrunners have no idea how boats work. Because he's on a sailboat, but this thing is pissing out into the water. If I can, I'll put the clip up. It's flying out in the water, like it's going at a good pace, until you see the sail. Because the sail is barely, like, it's not pushed out as the wind would be grabbing it to take the ship out. It's just fluttering tiny bits, backwards, forwards, backwards, forward. It's like, that's not how boats work. It's also not how boats work when you later see it and the sail is kind of being pushed out and the boat's not moving. But he can't drop the rings into the water and all that crap. And it's just, it's so nonsensical. And they put the rings on. He puts one ring on. Gladriel puts a ring on. And Gil-galad puts a ring on. And all of a sudden the tree grows its leaves again and shines bright again. The big question, and this will be the end of the review because there's really just nothing to go over. It's just boring. Well, actually, no, it won't. I'll have to talk about one other thing. But actually, I'll talk about this part first, which is the Queen Regent. Whatever the fuck she was called again. She is blind, of course. Her people don't know she's blind. She gets slapped in the face by one of the commoners, to which gets no punishment. She's just like, oh, come here, I'll give you a hug because you lost your people, your son. You're like, okay. Everybody's trying to screw about with this bitch, like they're trying to usurp her. What's his name? Foden? What the hell is the dude called again? Dude with the mad eyebrows. Oh, what the hell's he called? is it Ferrodin or something like that? Something that starts with a P. Anyway, he's just being a nonce. Farazan, I think, maybe it was. And he's trying to convince Isildur's sister, remember her, Thunder Tits, whatever her character was called, to kind of screw over the queen. And they do all that. And it's ridiculous. But she starts being able to walk around all of a sudden with no help and no one around. And it's like, how does she know exactly where to go and where the stairs are and how to grab this thing and how that will work? And you're just like, this is making no sense. Good Christ. Now, the big question that we've had all along is how the hell can Sauron show up with different hair and nobody recognize him? Well, Hellbrand does get released by Adar, and he goes all the way up to the new forge to Celebrimbor. And he's let in by the elves, and he's like, I'm here to see Celebrimbor. To which Celebrimbor's new apprentice, she runs down and goes, you're injured and stuff. He's like, goes up, tells Celebrimbor, he's like, I don't care, I promised Galadriel we wouldn't associate with Hellbrand again. Tell him to piss off. So she goes back down and is like, he doesn't want to see, you're not welcome, off you fuck. And he's like, well, I'll wait here until he comes down. So he does, he stands there for however long. And then Celebrimbor eventually does go down to him. By the way, this scene makes no sense. It's piss and rain. Celebrimbor is walking up and there's this dude walking behind him with this weird umbrella. And you're like, why does he look wet? Because he is. He's absolutely soaking. It's like, oh, so you're standing under this thing for no reason because it's not actually keeping you dry. But he instantly like, oh, my friend, come on up. Brings him in. They have a chit chat. He tells him, oh, he asks him, like, Hellbrand flat out's like, are you my friend? And he's like, of course I am. And he's saying, we need to make more rings, you know. Celebrimbor asks him, did the other rings work? It's like, how would you not know that they worked? But he asks him, and he goes, of course they worked, blah, blah, blah. Now we need to make more, and we need to make the rings for men, the rings for dwarves, blah, blah, blah. All this shit. And then he asks him, like, who are you, really? All the lights go out. He vanishes. All the lights start getting blown out and stuff, and this, like, evil voice comes across and says some shit. And then the forge explodes with fire and it's open, and out comes Hellbrand with a wig on. And he says, this is my true form. And all of a sudden he's like, I am the bringer of gifts. He says, we need to make the rings of power. And he's like, you're some sort of Lord of the Rings. I shit you not, this is actually said in this show. And he's like, what should we call you and stuff? And he's like, Anatar, the bringer of gifts. And you're like, sweet Jesus. And then you realize something. You realize how much time must have passed for him to go from Mordor all the way up to where Celebrimbor is. How much time must have passed for all these other characters to get from point A to point B. The dwarves are going from Khazad-dûm all the way down to bleeding Numenor. Well, not Numenor. Fuck me. Down to see Celebrimbor and stuff. And then they're back up in Khazad-dûm. And then they're back down there. And it's like, Jesus Christ. So you're looking at this thing, you're probably thinking that there must be at least 6 months time passing in all of this. No one decided to tell anyone that Hellbrand is Sauron. Not even the fact that no messages ever even came out to say, if Hellbrand shows up, don't trust him, don't help him, no word has come out at all about him. So that is why Celebrimbor can't recognize Hellbrand as Sauron, because he wasn't told that Hellbrand was Sauron. In fact, nobody other than Elrond and Gilgalad were told that Hellbrand was Sauron. What kind of stupid dumb shit is this? And yes, they start making the rings. Oh, and the other thing, the stranger, Gandalf, not Gandalf, totally Gandalf. When we first meet him, he's having a dream and he's being shown things. He's walking up and there's this object in front of him that's changing shapes. They're staffs. I don't see anyone else in their reviews commenting on this, but they're staffs. And one of the staffs that he starts reaching out for was, you guessed it, Gandalf's staff. but it's a dream, so he doesn't get that staff and stuff. But you clearly saw Gandalf's staff was there. So this show, 3 episodes in already, and it is some of the worst dog shit. Oh, by the way, when Hellbrand Sauron comes out as Anatar, and you see the look Celebrimbor gives to him, all I could think of is this must be going through Celebrimbor's head.
Well, hello there, stripper man.
Oh yeah. Bow cheeky wow wow. It's on. It's, oh my god, this show sucks. Thank Christ there's only 5 episodes left, but I tell you now, 5 far too many. But it's back, and unfortunately, we're watching it. So, with that, I shall leave it there for this one. By the way, let us know in the comments, have you checked it out? What do you think of it? And with that, cheers, and I'll catch you in the next one.